have to talk about the struggle of black people, not only in the United States, but in the world. They're getting ready. They're getting ready. They're getting ready. They're getting ready to commit genocide against us.
We have many older people in our community, but few elders. The difference being, of course, wisdom and knowledge about life and the world we live in. This program is designed for intergenerational sharing of wisdom and knowledge. We will discuss the 9 social constructs of education, politics, law, religion, economics, entertainment, love and sex, labor, and war, and how they affect American life with an emphasis on people of color. Ideally, we hope to attract an audience of parents with children born after 2006, as well as their children, because this will be the generation of the fourth turning. We must prepare this generation for radical change. This program will identify the problems with each of our social constructs, how we as a country got to where we are, and identify the solution for a more moral and just society. We are back with our second installment on the aftermath of the 2024 elections, and my guest, Brother Walter Brooks.
These kinds of things. But by and large, American people feel if this is a democracy, I should be the one, I have the right to teach my children what I think they need to know about sex. And now then we look up, and in the last 5 to 10 years, schools are saying, well, you know, if your kid comes to school and identifies as transgender and, you know, wants to have sex change, yeah, well, we're going to try to facilitate that. That kind of stuff got out the pitchforks and torches, you know, from virtually every community. It's like, no. Okay, now, the budget is $224 billion. That is what the education budget was in 2023. That's a hell of a lot of money. But what's interesting is 70% of that is going for student loans. Now, on the one hand, Biden was trying to make student loan forgiveness a major part of his administration, in hopes of garnering, votes.
Right.
You know, I wiped your loan out. But it may well have cost him way more votes than he would have gotten, because maybe every student that got a loan, and I think got their loans forgiven, and I think they've forgiven something like 4.5 million students. I don't know how much money per student, but they got big chunks of their loans deleted. And so if they all voted for Biden, well, hey, maybe he picked up 4 million votes. All right. But more importantly, there was a great deal of resentment by people who had paid their loans off. And now all these other people don't have to pay. And particularly the demographic of people who've never gone to college. They're like, wait a minute. You get to go to college and lord it over the rest of us. And now the government, the Democrats come and say, and you won't have to pay it back. So you get a double shot ahead of all of the rest of us that never really had a real shot at college. So that was Biden's student loan forgiveness. I don't think was well thought out. I don't think they realized how many people that was going to piss off, honestly.
Interesting.
Another thing is the remaining 30%. This is what's going to gut the black community. The remaining 30% of that money goes for kindergarten through K through 12 public schools, particularly for special education aides. And Sherry, my wife, teaches special education. If you have 2 to 3 people in those classes, and there may be 10 kids in there, because you've got autistic kids, you got nutcases in there, you've got 7-year-old kids that are still not toilet trained. They're coming into the classroom like this, So that money goes for special education. Social workers, in particularly in urban, but also in poor rural areas, the kids are coming to school with so many social and psychological problems that the schools now have to maintain, trained professionals, and then tutoring because everybody's behind. And in fact, because of COVID, they're talking, 60 to 70% of America's school children are a grade or 2 behind. That's insane.
Yes.
When you look at the brain power that's needed to get the jobs in Silicon Valley, and you look at how Indian children, Asian children, they're just wiping everybody off the map here in America in terms of educational skill sets and movement forward. If you cut all that tutoring and all that stuff out, you basically may as well tell black children and poor children, don't even bother coming anymore. It's just not going to do you any good. And also to hire more teachers and things like this. So if Trump kills the Department of Education, what it really means is he's going to defund it, and he's going to have hundreds of billions of dollars to redistribute to whatever particular areas that he wants to grow his power in and stuff like that. So the education money is very much on the chopping block, and a lot of that money is going to be taken out of urban public schools and redistributed to charter schools, where the priority will be given to charter schools that are going to maximize their curriculum on patriotism and all of that, and also religion. The American government is going to finally do away with the separation of state and religion, and under the MAGA nation is going to start giving billions of dollars to church schools and so forth, and which means that a lot of our people, black people, a lot of people are going to be sending their kids to schools that they personally would rather they not have to go to, but those are going to be either the best schools or the only schools left available to them. So there's going to be a major shift in the way that the next generation of children are going to be indoctrinated, which is what Trump's campaign and the MAGA nation has been saying, is the American public school has stopped educating kids and is now just indoctrinating them to multiculturalism, anti-racism, and a whole lot of gender, sexual kinds of stuff. But they're going to do it themselves. They're going to reverse it. They're not going to stop it. They're going to turn it to where all of these schools, the schools with getting the most money are going to be the ones that are going to have the Bible and put Christ back in the school and so forth. That's one thing. Then another thing for African Americans that is really going to be damaging We all know the history of contract prison labor, particularly in the southern states after the Civil War, where they locked up, literally hundreds of thousands of blacks and then just turned them into slaves again. Mm-hmm. And we know that the 13th Amendment clearly states that there can be no involuntary servitude, that is slavery, in America unless you're sent to prison. And when you're sent to prison, you lose the right to be protected from slave labor. Well, in a big step forward, the state of California, which is always, a lot of MAGA nation thinks California ain't even a part of America anymore because it is so off the chain, progressive with this, progressive with that, and out of touch with mainstream America. On November 5th, there was a referendum to reverse the California ban against involuntary servitude, and it won. Now, what that means is this. California is now going to say, if you get sent to prison, we can and will make you work against your will. And there will be specific punishments that hopefully will make you go, well, I may as well go on out there and work, as to lose my parole, be sent to segregation or the whole isolation, be punished. Because you can't have slavery without punishment, because nobody's going to do something without some kind of coercion. And now, let's tie that to something. Donald Trump's primary, if I had to say his number one campaign pledge was, in my first week on the job in January, I'm going to deport 1 million illegal immigrants out of this country and then go for 2 million more. Okay. California is the leading agribusiness state of the 50 states in America. Now, 2% of its gross state revenue comes from fruits and vegetables and stuff connected to agriculture. It may sound like not much, 2%, but that's more than any other state in America. And California's 2% of agribusiness accounts for 12.5% of all agribusiness in the United States. If Trump deletes and depletes all of the migrant labor, all of the people that have been picking our fruits and our vegetables and our pecans and our avocados and all of that stuff. And that would, well, they have cotton machines now, so nobody really picks cotton by hand anymore. Where's that labor going to be replaced? California makes over $50 billion a year off agribusiness. They're not going to just sacrifice that. They can't. Their economy can't take a hit like that. So that means if Trump wipes out all of their agribusiness labor, prisoners are going to be out there picking lettuce and tomatoes and everything else. And a whole lot of them now they may say you'll get paid. Right now, the average, if a person has a little job inside a prison in California, it's averaging about 74 cents an hour. Well, under this new regime, new law, they don't have to give you that. You're in prison. So if we want to say we're not going to pay you 74 cents an hour, but you're still going to do this job, and you say, well, if I'm not getting anything, I ain't doing anything. Okay, well, then they're going to go into the punishment. And once you start punishing people for not giving up labor, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit. So this is a big, big thing. Yes, the United States needs, I have said for years, Carlos, the United States is $35 in debt, $35 trillion in debt. The only way the United States can even make a dent in that kind of money is somewhere, somehow, it has got to get millions of Americans to work for free. That's about to happen. That is about to happen. Alabama now makes $11 billion a year off contract prison labor. $11 billion a year. California could conceivably make double or triple that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's a very dangerous thing that's about to befall us. Let me see if I've got one more here. The huge thing, his government downsizing is also going to include diversity in small business. Right now, minority people of color and women who are classified as minorities are getting about $70 billion a year in federal contracts.
Mm-hmm.
All that's about to get canceled. In fact, Biden himself, and this didn't really make the news, the Small Business Administration, they have been consistently attacked since 2020 for diversity programming, that blacks, people of color, and women get special consideration because traditionally it was an accepted fact that these categories, Americans of color and women, have been at a disadvantage in American culture. Okay, now, just like they wiped out diversity for affirmative action, for college entrance, they've been quietly working on destroying affirmative action in federal contracting. Mm-hmm. And when the Small Business Association was taken to court, and the court ruled with the Trump people that filed the suit, saying it's unfair.
I wanted you to go ahead and finish your thought, and then I'll come in directly after that.
Okay. Well, Carlos, I think I've kind of given hopefully a sufficient overview of the many reasons, or some of the key reasons, that this was such an epic fail for the Democratic Party on November 5th. And it's an epic fail. Trump didn't win by a landslide. Let's be clear about that. Mm-hmm. But he's the first Republican presidential candidate to win the popular vote in 20 years. That's more important to me than a landslide.
Yes.
Because if he had run against Trump, if Trump had run against Biden, that would have been a landslide.
Yeah, without a
doubt. But, Kamala's candidacy gave all of us hope that we might be able to pull this out, at the 11th hour and stop this man. And the fact that it turned out to be so much what nobody really expected, except for those that have been studying and observing and watching all of this, over the last 20 years or so. It's a game changer, and it's significant. And I think that I've kind of covered that. And then there's so many potential disastrous things that are going to happen, and certainly may well happen once he gets his hands on the wheel after January 21st. I'm going to pass this over to you with one final caveat. I want everybody to look up the America First program. Mm-hmm. So much of this campaign was centered around Project 2025. Project 2025 was a red herring. It got everybody, even Kamala herself, Biden, not Biden, Obama, Michelle Obama, they all made public references to, hey, we got to stop this guy because he's going to execute this nefarious, Naziist agenda called Project 2025. Actually, the real one that we should have been focusing on was under that. And that was kind of like a public face, but the America First program, and I discovered this probably about 7 weeks ago, they have ready to put on Donald Trump's desk January 21st, 300, I didn't say 30, I said 300 presidential proclamations already written, already typed up. They have been vetted by constitutional lawyers. All Donald Trump has to do the first 3 days on the job is sit at his desk and sign his name. This thing is going to come quick. It's going to come down dirty, and it's going to cut deep. So the deal is done.
Yeah.
He's coming in.
Yeah.
So the only question now is, what are we going to do as individual communities? What are we going to do as a people to fight a whole new battle? Because we lost this one.
Yeah.
We didn't win the war. We didn't lose the war. And I appreciate and I respect Kamala Harris for reminding people we lost the election, but we didn't lose what we're fighting for. And she's right, because we African Americans, we've been at this for 400 years.
Right.
You see, so we ain't gonna quit. We can't quit.
No.
We got 400 years in this country, and it's gonna get right one way or the other. So with having said that, I'd like to toss it back to you for Carlos, for your thoughts and closing moments. I'm talked out. Okay. I've talked too much, but I hope I've said something that your listeners can grasp and get a hold to. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Not a problem. And it's good to hear your analysis and put that in context of the last 100 years or so and how that led to where we are today. But one of the things that I want to mention real quick is the post-analysis on the election that you sent me from the 3 newspapers. I believe it was the Washington Post, USA Today, and New York Times.
Yes.
And the amazing thing behind this analysis is that why did they wait for after the elections?
They knew.
Okay.
No, there's some serious bias, so when Trump and everybody says don't trust the New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, yes, they're biased. Yes, they're biased. But as we saw, they don't own, freedom of the press is a right in America. But the old saying is freedom of the press is only for people that actually own their own press.
There you go.
And that proved to be the case. Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post, and at the 11th hour, when the Washington Post was going to publish their endorsement of Kamala Harris, he canceled it and said, "We're not going to endorse presidential candidates anymore." Now, what was dirty about that was not that he did it, but he should have did it 6 months ago.
Right.
And said, "We're telling you right now, the Washington Post is not going to endorse either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump." But to have known your editorial board, after all due diligence and consideration, we're going to come out for her, and the LA Times is going to do the same thing, and then the owner there, who also owns the Los Angeles Dodgers baseball team, I believe, she canceled their endorsement and said, "We're not." So, Trump has got a lot of people, big people, scared. This is also something that's different. I mean, Biden came in, Obama came in, Clinton came in, and so I've never seen a presidential elect come into office with so much big power money sweating it, and they are. Now, he's not going to get their cash, but they realize this is a man who doesn't mind messing with them and messing with their interests. So he's not coming after them. So I tell you what, Trump is probably going to be worth, at the end of his 4 years, I bet he's going to be worth at least $100 billion. He's going to make some money. You talk about pimping America.
Yes,
he's
yes.
ready to take it to the max, man.
Yeah, already in play, because that's one of the interesting things most people don't understand about presidential candidates is that whatever money they raise during their campaign, they don't give that money back. They keep it.
No, they don't give it back.
They keep it.
Trump ain't got no money right now. All his money's been getting legal fees.
Yep. Yeah, and that has come out that Trump was broke. But look at the people behind Trump. And you look at the one major player, BlackRock, and that should tell you everything. Because if people aren't aware of who, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. And I'm going to go ahead and give a quick recap on what we spoke about during this particular session with Brother Walter Brooks. He looked at the identity culture. This is the things Trump did in order to win over the American public. He looked at the identity culture and the whole gender thing, especially when it comes to transgender. He also looked at the Trump's plan to kill the Department of Education and how that money will be refunded into religious schools and charter schools to re-induct you, to pretty much re-educate kids the way the MAGA Republicans want kids indoctrinated, you might say. Immigrants, deporting immigrants would create a prison labor, because the thing we have to look at here is who will do the work that the immigrants come in to do, to pick all the agriculture, especially in the Southwest and, California, who will be able to do that work. And it looks like they will turn to American prison labor in order to get that work done. He also looked at the downsizing of government and how that would affect minority contracts. And the most importantly, that Project 2025 was a red herring. And the real thing we need to look at is a project, the American First program is the real thing we need to look at. That's going to wrap up our conversation for today. We will see you again in about 2 weeks. The second and fourth Thursday of the month. You can hear us right here on KUAW 98.5 on Facebook, KUAW.org on their own homepage. And if you're listening over the radio, you can pick us up on KAJH 100.5 low power FM. And you can also pick us up on my pod page, which would be podpage.com. They look at us differently, and you have to put hyphens in between each of those words. So with that, we'll wrap up this broadcast, and we will see you again in about 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
We have to talk about the struggle of black people, not only in the United States,